What's up, everyone? I started this video looking for an incredible individual to cover as part of my Incredible Individual series, and instead of finding one, I found an entire county full of them. Today we're diving into the lesser told story of World War II, a tiny community on the Chesapeake Bay, and how its seagoing sons ended up in the thick of the Battle of the Atlantic. We're talking about the Mathews men, merchant mariners from a tiny town with a massive impact, and one hell of a casualty rate. We're about to get into it, but first... Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club?
For the Turtle Club?
Because there is a vast amount of you who are watching my videos that aren't subscribed, and quite frankly, that's malarkey.
It's bullshit!
So, if you like this video and the others on my channel, I ask you please subscribe. I would love to do this full time one day, and the only way I can make that happen is with your help. I'm hoping to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I believe every single one of you will make that happen. Right? Right?
It's history on repeat. Hell yeah.
Alright, let's start where all stories do, and that's at the beginning. Mathews County, Virginia. Small, rural, quiet, the kind of place where there's more boats than bars. For generations, the men had been literally as close to water as you can get. On it, in it, or near it, as fishermen, sailors, and shipbuilders. If you grew up in Mathews, odds are your dad, your uncle, your grandfather all made their living at sea. Which, for those of you who know me, I think it sounds completely awful. No offense if you personally like the monster soup that we call the ocean, but that shit's not for me. Anyways, when World War II kicked off, the Navy and the Army got the headlines. But it was the US Merchant Marine that really kept the war machine going. They weren't your typical soldiers, they were civilians, hauling fuel, ammo, tanks, food, you name it, across the oceans, teeming with Nazi submarines. And Mathews sent more merchant mariners per capita than any other place in the US. They were brothers, fathers, sons, watermen turned wartime sailors. Not military technically, but just as bit as brave. They didn't wear uniforms, they didn't get medals, they weren't even guaranteed veteran status, but they were absolutely in the line of fire. Here's the wild part. 1 out of every 24 merchant mariners during the World War II died in service. That's the highest casualty rate of any American branch. So yeah, keep that in mind as I get into these crazy but absolutely heroic acts. And here's a disclaimer. Some of the fates of these men are, let's say, pretty dark, but war is hell, and this is a pretty great depiction of that, and their sacrifices deserve to be heard. Let's talk about how brutal this was. These guys were on slow-sailing, vulnerable cargo ships. Quite literally a U-boat's wet dream when they appeared in their sights. Easy target would be an understatement. Imagine sailing out in the dark. No lights because blackouts were mandatory. Suddenly, boom, a torpedo slams into your hull. The ship catches fire, you're in freezing waters, no backup, no rescue, just survival mode. Men like those from Mathews County dealt with this kind of terror every single time they shipped out. Some were torpedoed multiple times and they kept going back. One Mathews man, Captain Jake Keller, survived 2 sinkings. He didn't quit. Instead, he took command of another Liberty ship and kept running cargo across the Atlantic. And believe it or not, he was one of the lucky ones. Numbers help really put this story into perspective. During 1942 and through the war, merchant mariners suffered casualty rates that rivaled or exceeded many military branches. The U-boat campaign sunk hundreds of Allied merchant ships and killed more than 9,000 American merchant mariners across the war. Locally, Mathews County alone lost about 24 men during the conflict, a staggering toll for such a small place. Here's a few of their stories. One of the most wrenching stories, and the start of our dark and gruesome segment, which I warned you about earlier, starts off the coast of Cuba. A Cuban fisherman cut open a shark and found human remains. which included an arm wearing a wedding ring. Yeah, I told you guys, monster suit. That ring, however, was eventually traced back to a Mathews seaman. That discovery became a string pulling open the larger story of who these men were and how many never returned. Like in the case of the Onondaga. On July 23, 1942, the American steam merchant Onondaga, commanded by Captain George Dewey Hodges of Mathews, was out near Cuba when U-129 fired. The torpedo struck and the ship sank in under a minute. Dozens were lost that night, and it's another sobering reminder that shows how quickly a merchant sailor's life could end, and how families far away waited for word that sometimes never came. At the center of the Mathews story, though, is one family you can't ignore: the Hodges. The Hodges patriarch and his 7 sons were all mariners. 7 brothers serving at sea during the U-boat war. It reads like a movie logline, but it's painfully real. 2 of those brothers never came home, one of which being Captain George Dewey Hodges, I mentioned a few moments ago. And the survivors' stories are just as brutal. Because remember, some of the men made it off these doomed vessels, which is the only reason why we know what happened and the only reason why I can make this video to begin with. And as you'd expect, their stories are my absolute fucking nightmare. Men clambered into rafts and lifeboats surrounded by burning oil slicks and wreckage. Some drifted for days, rationing water, watching the horizon for a rescue that might never show. And not to mention the dozens of sharks, if not hundreds, hunting you. Because like I said, monster suit. And those of you who might be calling me a wuss right now, let me tell you a quick story. Before I met my wife, the longest girlfriend I ever had was 3.5 years. Her family and I were pretty tight, which is why before my girlfriend and I broke up, they asked if I wanted to go on vacation to Florida with them. Nice place on the beach, all expenses paid for. I respectfully declined.
God, you're dumb.
Stating that as a redhead, I hate the beach and I didn't want to get eaten by a shark. They all laughed at me and called me a wuss, probably like most of you right now. But that didn't matter because before I left, my girlfriend and I broke up.
Yeah, that's right. You're a loser. Get lost.
Fast forward to their trip though, at some point during their adventure, my girlfriend's sister got her calf ripped off by a fucking bull shark. She survived and is doing well, but heed my words when I say that the ocean is monster soup. Because in another reality, it could have been me. Okay, ran over. Enough rambling for me though, because the Mathews men were, you guessed it, built different. There are accounts of men who survived a sinking, went to shore, and then signed back on and sailed out again. Which is insane to me based on everything I've already laid out and because of my very rational fear of sharks.
I think he's still hung up on her after all these years.
Wow, he needs to get over it already. Move on.
But I guess the combination of duty, a fat paycheck, and the sense that someone had to get that cargo through pulled a lot of them back into the same danger. So why don't we hear of them? Well, for decades, the merchant mariners were treated like second-class citizens. No veteran benefits, no parades. It wasn't until 1988, over 40 years after World War II, that they were finally recognized as veterans. Yeah, that long. In Mathews County, it quietly carried that legacy, proud but humble. There is a memorial now honoring the men lost at sea, but you won't find any documentaries or movies or monuments at DC, and that's exactly why we're talking about it here. But the Mathews men aren't just stories of sinking ships and loss. Their work mattered in a way that's easy to overlook from landlocked textbooks. Every invasion, every supply run, every frontline unit needed supplies. And those supplies came over the sea. Merchant mariners kept D-Day and the Mediterranean campaigns supplied. They ran convoys across the North Atlantic to Murmansk, transported troops and equipment, and kept oil flowing. No Allied army starved because the merchant ships kept coming. William Geroux's book, The Mathews Men, brought the story back into the light, and he threads personal narratives like the Hodges family through the technical history of the convoy system and the U-boat threat. Reading it, you get a combination of an intimate family drama and the brutal logistics of a global war. A few moments into Geroux's book that stuck with me was how the community dealt with the losses. There were funerals and memorials where the whole town showed up. That ring found in the shark, or a telegram delivered to a farmhouse, made the vulnerability feel personal. The families left behind, the wives who waited, the kids who didn't understand why dad never came back. Which, as a father, that one really gets me. These are small human things that make the scale of the global war painfully local. So why tell the Mathews story when it's a super dark story and scared the shit out of me while researching it? Because it reminds us war is not just battalions charging machine guns or tanks crossing battlefields. It's also the quiet, relentless work of getting from point A to point B and the people who did the work, often without medals and often forgotten, who paid an enormous price. For a tiny county on the Chesapeake, the war was literal. It came by telephone, by rings washed ashore, and by empty chairs at dinner tables. Once again, I know this isn't the upbeat, cool badassery I usually cover, but history isn't always sunshine and rainbows. But if you like this story of these incredible men and their families, smash that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what incredible person I should cover next. And if I missed anything, you know what to do. Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.